Hello everybody and welcome to this all-new episode of the Northern Virginia Sports Report. I'm your host, Monica Moore, and I'm delighted to be joined in the studio today by Paul Frumelt from the Fairfax Times. We have lots of news from around the area for you today. Basketball championships, state championships in indoor track, and more, so stay tuned for that. But before we jump into everything, we first want to thank the folks that help make our program possible. First of all, our good friends from CCI Screen Printing for all of your screen printing needs. Also, special thanks to Craig Strabutzel for all of the fantastic photos that you're going to see throughout tonight's episode. Don't forget that you can get copies of this program at www.pressboxvideo.com and check out our website with the Video Vault feature where you can see highlights, interviews, and more. Don't forget to become a fan of the Fairfax Sports Network on our Facebook page, and please do send us any comments, suggestions, story ideas, news, or notes that you have so that we can use them on the program. Well, as usual, we're going to start off today by talking about a couple of news and notes. There's lots of football news going on around the region. So first of all, congratulations to Chris Haddock. It's been announced that he'll be the new head football coach over at Centerville. Of course, people in the region very familiar with him as he's been at Fairfax for the past 3 years as a head coach and the past 6 years working in a coaching capacity there. Also, more football news. Congratulations to Saeed Aziz, who has been announced as the new head football coach over at Falls Church. He's been an assistant coach for a number of schools, including Lee, James Wood, and most recently at Stafford. Well, Paul, there's some other football news from around the region. It's been announced that Matt Zanilato, the star wide receiver over at Robinson, will be transferring to Lake Braddock next year to play in that spread offense system that averaged 31.5 points per game last season.
It's a good fit. Yeah, it's a great fit for Matt Zanilato to be moving over to Lake Braddock. Obviously, Robinson loses a dynamic wide receiver. Lake Braddock, they get one, and especially with Michael Niebert coming back, the great quarterback. Certainly, the preseason player of the Northern region should be a great fit. And also, just looking at Chris Haddock moving over to Centerville, he brought Fairfax into the playoffs the first time since 1999, 2000. Moving over to Centerville, that's a big loss for Fairfax because he is a fantastic coach. We were talking before the show, Monica, that Fairfax had some talented kids, but not the level of talent you see on teams like Westfield, teams like Chantilly, teams like Lake Braddock and Robinson. He did a great job with that group of kids, and it's a big loss for Fairfax and a good get for Centerville.
And then some more football news, or at least about a football player who also plays basketball, a multi-sport athlete over at Herndon. Zach Osick has announced his college decision.
He is going to James Madison University, and that's a great place for Osick to use his football skills. Had kind of a disappointing season, not a flashy season this year at Herndon. Had a great basketball season. He was cut a little short by injury, but he will be playing football. That's his first love. He'll be playing that at James Madison University.
All right, well, speaking of basketball, since we were off last week, we didn't get to talk about the Northern Region Championship, so we want to go through and review those before we jump into the state tournament action that's been going on. So, Paul, first, let's talk a little bit about the girls' final, which matched up Oakton versus West Springfield. No surprise there because they really were two of the dominant teams in the region this year.
Yeah, West Springfield had not lost to a Northern Region opponent heading into the game. Oakton, just that one head-scratching loss to Robinson during the regular season. Remember, Oakton was the defending Northern Region champion, and before the game, Oakton head coach Fred Priester had a career wins of 499, so a win against West Springfield will be his 500th career win, and it was a great game. Oakton dominating, and Caroline Coyer just had a fantastic game, just a dominating offensive performance by Oakton.
All right, let's jump into some of the highlights from this one. A great matchup. Zora Stevenson there from the corner has been a sharp shooter for the Cougars all year long. And there, Brianka Mathis battling there in the low post with Mel Todd.
Yeah, and Zora Stevenson kind of was shut out during this game. Not very many points from Zora Stevenson, but you see Caroline Coyer, just a dominant performance with 20 points in the game. And this postseason has been a lot about the Coyer twins, Caroline and Catherine Coyer. Catherine stepping up big time and equaling the output that you've seen from Caroline throughout this season.
And here's the star for West Springfield, April Robinson. Her team seems to go as she does. Really an outstanding athlete, only a sophomore for the Spartans, and they're a nice big offensive rebound meltod with the putback senior, sophomore, great connection there. And then Jordan Miller draining the three-pointer from the corner for the Spartans.
And Danielle Davis team missing the rebound and the putback. Danielle Davis, big junior transferred in this season from the Chicago area, had a great year for Oakton fitting in. But one thing you notice here, you see Caroline Coyer with 20 points, Catherine Coyer with 12. We also mentioned April Robinson. All three of the best players on the court in the Northern Region Final are all sophomores.
So lots of great future games for those athletes, but of course they're not done because the two teams in the region final advancing onto the state quarterfinals. So we'll talk a little bit about that later on in the program. But we also have a post-game interview for you. Fred Priester, of course, the head coach of Oakton, very well-known, very successful coach, talking about the region championship win.
I'm here with Caroline Coyer and head coach Fred Priester of the Oakton Cougars. Caroline, another Northern Region title. How good does this one feel?
It feels just as good as the last one, if not better.
Now, things got a little tense there in the fourth quarter. Can you talk about what was said in the huddle?
You know, he told us to keep calm, keep our composure, and just keep playing tough defense and, you know, get a good possession and get back in it.
Now, this is your second year with Coach Priester. Got his 500th win tonight. How big is it for you to be able to be a part of that?
It's great because I have so much respect for him as a coach. I love him, and, you know, I love having him as a coach, and I'm just glad to be a part of, like, such a milestone for him.
All right, Caroline, thanks. Coach, 500, how big does that feel?
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that. Obviously, I'm aware of it and stuff like that. I never really said anything to the kids, but the newspapers kind of had it in there. I've always said that the most important win is the next one, and by the time I get back to the locker room, I'll probably be thinking about the next game. But, you know, you have to take a minute at a time like this and think to yourself how fortunate you've been to have kids like Caroline and Catherine and Zora and all the way back, Zora, you know, Jasmine Thomas, all the different kids that we've had through the years, Aaron McGartland last year. And just be thankful as a coach that you had an opportunity to be with that many great kids and that they were so good as to win some games so you would look good.
Now, I asked Caroline, things did get close. It was a comfortable win, but it got close there in the fourth quarter. What did you tell them?
Well, I just told them that the most important thing to do would be to just get a basket, that all we had to do was, you know, stay true to what we were doing, play our game. And what was great was they went right out, and I think we went right out six. We had given up a 6-0 run, and I think or maybe even a 9-0 run. And yeah, it was, because we were up 12, went down to 3. And then we went out and scored 7 straight points. I told them they had to get 48 to win, so I don't know what the final score was, but I think 48 was enough.
All right, Fred Priester and our player of the game, Caroline Coyer.
So the Oakton Cougars winning their second region championship in a row. Now for the boys region championship, it was Chantilly squaring off against Langley. So Paul, Chantilly was a team that people had very high expectations coming into the season. They faltered a little bit in the district and then started coming on strong during the postseason.
Well, Chantilly was a team that they really only lost one player from last year's team with Justin May. He was obviously a great player, but coming into the season, you have John Manning, now a junior. You have Keithan Savage stepping up, Adam Friday, a senior. You have Matt Howerton on that team. You have a lot of great players, a lot of great role players on that team. So people thought, well, this is a team that can challenge T.C. Williams for to be the top team in the Northern Region. Obviously, we know what happened with T.C. Williams having to forfeit a bunch of their games. So we immediately thought, well, Chantilly is the team to beat. They faltered a bit during the regular season, losing some head scratchers and ultimately losing to Oakton in the Concord District Final. Now, they bounced back, and they bounced back in a big way during the region tournament. As you take a look at the highlights against Langley, you see just a fantastic performance by Langley. You see Manning there to Devin Ballam, who had a great game.
And having Adam Friday back certainly helped the Chargers. Keithan Savage there driving. He always seems, Paul, to make the big play when his team needs it.
Yeah, Jim Smith, the head coach, said that Keithan Savage, sometimes he disappears in a game, and I've noticed that because he lets the game come to him. But when he wants to, as you see right there, when he wants to score, when he wants to be more proactive, it's a big boost to the Chargers.
And there you see Austin Chris, number 50, has been a standout for Langley for a lot of the year. You see him battling in the low post in these highlights with Chantilly's John Manning, who just had that big dunk. So that was a matchup people were really excited about because both of them have really had great seasons.
Yeah, and the Northern Region Tournament was a coming out party for John Manning, who had 16 points and 5 blocks in this final. He's just been fantastic during the postseason. He's really coming into his own now in his third year with the Chargers, and you see Savage again with a great layup. And Langley is a team that coming into the season, they did not have any experience. Only Joey Kiffey was the only player that had any kind of experience on this team. Langley's a team that's very senior heavy this year, was very senior heavy last year, and they're a team that got their experience quickly, and they didn't overplay. They're just a great team.
Well, and I think it's a credit to Coach Travis Hess. We talk about him a lot, but he did a lot with this team. People did not know how good they were going to be, and they might have surprised a couple of people, but ending up in the region final, losing by 7 points, but a great season for them in the region. Yeah,
3-time Liberty District champions, and that's with essentially 3 different teams, and they're going to have a pretty different team next year as well. 5 returning players, I believe. But they're going to have a lot of new faces. They always have great junior varsity programs, another great junior varsity team this year. So they continue to reload. There's a great talent pool there over in Great Falls, and Travis Hess is a great coach. So they're always going to be in the thick of things. But one thing Hess told me after this game is he said, we don't want to be the team that's just happy to be here. A couple years ago, they played T.C. Williams in the Northern Region Final. And he admitted, they felt like they were happy to be there. Well, now he wants to kind of change that mindset, and instead of just being happy to make the Northern Region tournament, be happy to be in the Final Four, be happy to be in the finals, they don't want to be satisfied until they win a Northern Region final.
And Paul got to talk with head coach Jim Smith of the Chantilly Chargers and our player of the game after Chantilly won the region championship.
I'm here with Jim Smith. Coach, a big win.
Yeah, it feels great. We've had one of those years where we've had some peaks and valleys, and we've had some adversity and some tough losses, but we felt all year that we were the best team in the region, and it was very satisfying to put it together this week and cap it off with a win tonight.
And our player of the game, John Manning. John, it's your 3rd year with the Chargers. You get a win this year, your junior year. How big does that feel?
It feels great. We came so close, and finally to get there, it's awesome.
John, they made it interesting, though. It got a little interesting there in the 3rd and 4th quarter. But can you talk about what the team talked about in the 4th?
We just knew we had to, come out and D up, get out on their shooters, and really communicate, and we did that.
Coach, your defense was just great tonight, and the foul shooting. So 2 underappreciated aspects of the game came out big tonight.
Well, obviously you got to play great defense, take care of the ball, and hit free throws to win close games. And we've lost a number of close games this year, and just felt good in this big game to get some solid stops, make our free throws, and seal it on the free throw line. Felt good.
A preseason favorite, but a bit of an uneven season. But did the team ever lose confidence in itself?
No, I don't think so. It's a great group of guys. They're very resilient. I think each game we could look at it and see what we did wrong, and I think the guys kept working. We made a few adjustments here and there as the season went on, and I'm just very proud of them, and they've responded to everything we've asked them. So it was very, very rewarding.
All right, Chantilly head coach Jim Smith and our player of the game, John Manning.
All right, so let's segue now into the Dulles District and talk a little bit about the Region 2 Division 4 finals, because Freedom has been a team that has been outstanding all season long. This was really a statement game for them, making a statement about this, coming out with the big 62-33 win. Of course, they were not pleased with the way that the standings happened due to the way that out in Loudoun County they do structure the tournament. But Kelsey Buchanan, Jessica Scores are the 2 seniors, both with 20 points, Jasmine Merritt with 10 points, getting the big win for Freedom in the Division 4 championship. And now for the boys, see that Potomac Falls also beating Liberty. So they're 2 stars that have been standouts all season long, combining for 49 points.
Yeah, that's just a very dangerous 1-2 punch for the Panthers, and Liberty not having a good time on boys or girls, losing in the Division 4 championships. Potomac Falls, Mikhailovich, when he's not the leading scorer, that's a good thing for Potomac Falls because he's still going to put up his points.
And so both of those teams earning a trip to the state quarterfinals. So first, let's talk a little bit about Freedom, because they squared off against Cortland in the state quarterfinals this past weekend and continued making the statement that they've been making. Let's take a look at a couple of these highlights so you can see how dominating this Freedom team can be. Just right off the bat, big three-pointer from Deanna Scott, and it was their defense that was absolutely stifling. Jessica scores so there with the steal and the putback. Cortland just having a bit of trouble getting going here, but one thing you have to know about this Cortland club is that they were missing their best player, Anika Trent, the sophomore, had a bruised knee and didn't play. Meanwhile, you see Jasmine Merritt there really having a good game for the Eagles, and this is how they can hurt you, because in these highlights, you're going to see lots of different Freedom players really stepping up. They have so many different offensive weapons. Deanna Scott there draining a three-pointer. And Cortland just had a lot of trouble trying to find their answer to everything that the Eagles did all night. Kim Kodatek there knocking one down, and then they would go inside to Kelsey Buchanan. And Paul, this was a big game for Kelsey Buchanan because she finally got her 1,500th point, which is a huge honor for her and just really goes to show what a fantastic player Kelsey Buchanan has been.
Let's take a look at the stat line. 27 points, 18 rebounds. That's a big-time double-double if I've ever seen one. Buchanan, 27 points, 18 rebounds. Deanna Scott with 15 points. Jessica Escorza, 12 points for the Eagles.
And really the only thing that could, a lot of people think could prevent them from winning another state championship is if they get into foul trouble. There you see Alexis Mayo, great defender, just brings a lot of energy, and Jessica scores great pictures of two of Freedom's many standouts. But Freedom certainly looking very strong. We'll talk a little bit more about them when we talk about their state semifinal game. But now let's segue into the boys quarterfinal and talk a little bit about Potomac Falls versus Tab, because this was another great matchup. The Loudoun County team, of course, Potomac Falls coming out with the victory. So let's take a look at the highlights and we'll show you how they got the big win. Now, Tab had two great players on the roster, two seniors that lead them, Chris Ham among them. You're going to see him a lot in these highlights. Number 44, he's their defensive standout. Emmanuel Jones, number 12, is their offensive standout. But Jones had a little trouble getting going in this game. Needed some of his teammates like Quinlan McCormick, number 20 there, and number 22, Patrick Corbett, to step up for the Tigers. And then meanwhile, for Potomac Falls, they just continued their domination. Great pass there from Brendan Chesson to Zach Curran. Just has been a great team effort for them all season long. Big defense there by Mickey Wagenhofer with the block. And then looking ahead to his teammate Lucas Mihailovic, who is just one of the best players I've seen all year. What he is able to do creating shots for himself. You just saw a great layup there by Mihailovic, and then Wagenhofer hitting that three from the corner. When he took that shot, I didn't know if that was the shot that Jeff Hawes wanted, but he knocked it down and drained it. Tab trying to answer here and get something going. Patrick Corbett there, number 22, with the layup. But Potomac Falls just had so many weapons. Like Freedom, they have a lot of weapons, and that's one of them. Greg Graves, number 50, only a sophomore. He's still coming into his own, and it's scary to think about how good he's going to be when he's a senior. And there's Zach Curran with some nice defense, handing off to Wagenhofer, who looks quickly ahead to Mihailovic. And Mihailovic can just create shots for himself. He's such an athlete. He's
just a pure scorer. You see 24 points again for Mihailovic, and you put any kind of talent around Mihailovic, and you see what happens for Potomac Falls. He is their number one guy, but you put someone like Graves, someone like Chesson around him, they become a state final championship team.
And after the game, I got to talk with head coach Jeff Hawes, who is one of the most exciting coaches to watch from around the area because he is so energetic with his club. And so we'll let you take a look at that interview with a very happy coach Jeff Hawes.
Standing here with our player of the game, Lucas Mihailovic, and head coach Jeff Hawes. Lucas, how does it feel to go to the semifinals?
I mean, it feels great. It's something that we've been thinking about ever since, not since this season started, but last season ended. Right that night I went home and I said, next year it's going to be different. I think we've put in the work to get there, so it's good to see it pays off, but we're not done yet. We want to get two more.
Obviously, Tab played a great game tonight. You guys kept your composure every single time they tried to launch a comeback. Can you talk a little bit about mentally how you guys stayed focused?
Yeah, I mean that's the first time in a while that we've been in a close game at halftime. You know, we've had some comebacks in the third, but really, you know, tight knot game going the second half. We haven't had that in a while. So I just had to go in the locker room and tell the guys that if we just scrap a little more, play the ball we're capable of playing, we're going to come out and get a lead here in the third quarter, and we're not going to let that go. And you know, so just keep everyone's head up, and that's exactly what we did.
Obviously, you put up the big numbers every night, but over the past few weeks, you've had a lot of teammates really stepping up. Can you talk about that?
I mean, everyone sees it. It's so easy to see, you know, how well they're playing. I think what's really turned it on for us is, you know, decide to play defense, rebound, and basketball. There's no way one guy can win any games by himself. I feel like so. You know, these guys mean just as much to the team as anybody else, and it's great. It's great to get this win as a team.
Coach, I know you're happy to get the win. What are you most pleased with about your team's performance tonight?
Man, I just knew at some point we were not going to play as well as we were playing, just law of averages. I mean, we were just absolutely playing over the top. But I'm maybe even more proud of this because that's a good ball club. If you notice the way they moved the ball and shot the ball, and they kind of forced their will on us playing their game. They're very well coached, disciplined. And we were not the smoothest tonight, but we just fought like crazy. And that was a set play to start the second half. I told the kids, I said, we're going to run this for Lucas. He's going to bury it. We're going up 4, and we're off. And he made it, you know. All I did was call it, and he made it. But and Greg Graves, too, the way he stepped up second half, he just was moping around first half, not playing the way he's capable, and he really stepped it up. He was huge for us. But like you said, just a lot of kids. And, I mean, this is huge. You know, state Final Four going to Richmond. It really hadn't all sunk in yet. Since they were in 6th grade, we've talked about next year when they're seniors. We were in the Final Four in the state. You know, 21 victories. That's the most ever. And we're going to enjoy the heck out of this for the weekend and then try to figure out who we're playing next. We've got a 4-hour drive tomorrow night. And a 4-hour drive on Sunday to Richmond for Media Day, but bring it on. Bring it on.
All right, well, congratulations, Coach. Congratulations, Lucas.
Thank you.
So both Freedom and Potomac Falls advancing on to the state semifinals, and Dan Sousa was at both of those games in Richmond, and he's on the phone now, the editor of Viva Loudon. Dan, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
All right. Well, Dan, so you were at both of those games. Let's talk a little bit first about the Freedom Turner Ashby game, because obviously Turner Ashby has a great player in Kirby Burkholder, and they held her just to 6 points. So can you talk a little bit first about Freedom's defensive effort?
Yeah, it was definitely a scrappy defensive effort. And matter of fact, they went to a zone at one point. And the second quarter, Freedom scored 7 points, and Turner Ashby scored 2 points in the second quarter. And Jason Elridge, the coach for the Eagles, described it. He said it was a youth league basketball-like score.
And looking at the score, 44 points for Freedom. Of course, we saw them play in the quarterfinal. They have so many offensive weapons. So talk a little bit about their offense, who was really stepping up for them. Obviously, Kelsey Buchanan having her typical game.
Yeah, she had 22 points with 19 rebounds, and we see this from her all the time. They credited her with 5 blocks, but honestly, she almost had 10 in the game. And I think the Eagles were a little bit tight. Some of the players didn't have their best offensive game, and Kelsey, though, with her size, 6'3", just was too much of a force inside, and they really didn't have an answer for her.
Now, Dan, Kelsey Buchanan, we've just talked about her, but these aren't just double-doubles. These are super double-doubles with all the points and the rebounds. You mentioned her size, but it's got to be more than just that 6'3" frame.
Well, it is, and I mean, she does a nice job of fighting for position and posting up. And the other thing she does that's always impressed me, she runs the floor so well for a big person. So she gets down there, and a lot of the putbacks she gets are actually offensive rebounds on fast breaks. And so, it's a good lesson for young centers that if you hustle down the court, good things are going to happen.
And of course, Freedom will be moving on, advancing to the state championship game. So Dan, can you talk a little bit about that and what you anticipate there for the Eagles?
Well, they play Spotswood, and Spotswood, reading up on them, they beat York today, and they want to run the ball. They want to have a high-tempo game, and of course, Freedom likes that too. And what Spotswood did to York is kind of a recipe to how they could possibly beat Freedom. York had a 6-foot center, and they got her in foul trouble early. She had 3 fouls in the first half, and that prevented her from being a force. And so look at them to go at Kelsey. I mean, I think anybody who saw her play in this semifinal game knows that if she's on the floor, Freedom's going to be hard to beat.
And speaking of Spotswood, Potomac Falls boys played Spotswood in the state semifinals. And just talk to me about what these Potomac Falls boys were able to do.
Wow, Greg Graves, the sophomore, 6'5". I've been kind of waiting for him to break loose and have an amazing game, and he plays well in spurts, and he did. He had some moments there in the quarterfinal game, but he put together a complete game. He had 15 points, 12 rebounds, 10 block shots, a triple-double in the state semis. How about that? He's only a sophomore.
And Dan, you and I have talked a lot about Greg and him kind of coming into his own a little bit. And of course, he has so many great teammates around him. And so can you talk a little bit about the efforts of some of the others, Lucas Mihailovich, Brendan Chesson, Zach Curran, some of the players? I mean, they've been the backbone of this team all year with Greg Graves.
Well, and what's impressive is that they can take players off the bench like Alex Kress or Matt Hoover, and they put him in for a minute or two, and they give him some great minutes, and that really helps. But Mihailovich had 25 points, and a nice job that he did is that Spotswood opened up the game really strong, and they jumped out to a little bit of a lead. Potomac Falls looked tight. They were making some turnovers, and like a good player does, a team leader, Mihailovich took the ball the next 3 trips down the floor, forced his way to the basket, drew fouls, made free throws. He ended up going 14 of 14 from the line in the game, which is a state record. That's, I think 13 of 13 had been the state record for AA, so he has put himself in the record book.
And Dan, with Coach Jeff Hawes, when I covered Loudoun County way back in the day with you, I knew Potomac Falls was a good team. Jeff Hawes is a great coach. But for most of the basketball in Loudoun County, once they got to that region level, I just said, all right, well, season over. But now you're seeing these teams, Freedom Girls really started in Loudoun County Girls. Now you're seeing on the men's side, Potomac Falls making this run. What is it about this team? Is it just having Mihailovich and having all these people around him? What is it about this Potomac Falls team?
Well, I think it's like, listen a little bit of the interview that you had run earlier there. I mean, they have really been following this team since 6th grade, and at the state press conference last night, Hawes was reminiscing. He said he remembered the first time Graves walked in as a 6th grader, and he looked like about 6'3" at that point, and they couldn't believe, we're going to get this kid at our school someday. And that the other thing, this group of basketball players, that's what they are. They are basketball players. They don't really play other sports at the school. They're year-round basketball players, and out in Loudoun we don't see that a lot. So this is a core group that's been together for basically 6 years now, and it's starting to show in their chemistry.
Now, contrasting Freedom to Potomac Falls, of course, Freedom won the state championship last year. They have a lot of experience with this. When I talked to Jeff Hawes before the state quarterfinal, he talked a lot about the fact that this is all new to them. It's so exciting. Can you contrast a little bit the difference between the two teams going into the state championships, which both of them will be competing in?
It's sure. And Freedom's got, Kelsey's leading this experienced group, and they can put out players like Brittany Poindexter who have been there before, Alexis Mayo, and they're playing with a lot of confidence, and they were able to shrug off their little bit of slump yesterday. With they didn't really panic at all. And with Potomac Falls, they have no seniors in the starting lineup, but only 2 seniors on the team. So you kind of wait, maybe they could start to feel like they're on the big stage. But the good news for them is they're playing a Broadway team on Saturday that, guess what, has never been to the state finals before. And not only that, but Broadway played Potomac Falls back in mid-January and lost. So Potomac Falls is going to have a lot of confidence. They already beat Broadway by 13 points this year. Greg Graves had 14 in that game. Mihailovich had 18. So really Potomac Falls, this is their game to win. And the thing that Broadway has going for them is probably the best nickname in the state of Virginia. They are the Gobblers.
Well, Dan, before we let you go, I understand that you're doing a little bit of coaching of your own. Want to give a shout out to your team?
Got to give a shout out to the Two Ridges League. The boys 4 Lakers are going to be in the championship game this Saturday of their own, and then I'm going to head on the road and get down to VCU after that so I can see Freedom and Potomac Falls play at 7 and 9. I hope a lot of Loudoun fans make the trip because it's a great atmosphere down there.
All right, so it will be a championship Saturday for Dan Sousa. Dan, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so both of the Loudon teams advancing on to the state finals. But now let's talk a little bit and segue into indoor track and take a short break from basketball. We'll jump right back into it in a couple of minutes, but we haven't had a chance to talk about the state AAA indoor track championships. Two of our athletes from the northern region having big standout days, and I got to talk with Lake Braddock's Sophie Chase about her phenomenal run in the 3200. Welcome into the Players Lounge. This week we are joined by Lake Braddock's Sophie Chase, who won the 3,200 meters at the Indoor Track Championships a couple weeks ago. Now, Sophie, obviously that was a big meet for you, and you were seated ninth against a field of seniors. So can you talk a little bit about what your strategy was going into that race?
I didn't really have an exact strategy. Every race I do, I just go out there and put all my heart into it. Just try my best. It was definitely a very strong group of girls. It was actually the first time in Virginia state history where 6 girls were under 11 minutes. So it was obviously a very fast race. The week before, I actually ran a very good race at the regional meet. And I just wanted to kind of replay that meet again and run almost the same exact race. I mean, obviously, I'd be against more competitive runners, but I just wanted to do the best I could, and it was good.
Now, speaking of the region meet, of course, you won 2 events there, the 3,200 and the 1,600. Now, in the 3,200, you were behind Robinson's Taylor Crossan, and you came through and you won. Can you talk a little bit about what you were thinking during that race and just catching up and then getting the victory?
I don't really know exactly what I was thinking. I just kind of zone out when I'm running. But I definitely wanted to run a smarter race. I didn't want to go out too hard because I've done that in the past, and it's just kind of caught up with me in the end of the race. So I just wanted to kind of run a smarter race. And I started out, she went out very hard, and I just wanted to gradually catch her, and then at the end I just caught up to her. And right before the race, I heard that we were about a point behind Robinson. So I felt a lot of pressure definitely on me to win that race. So I just kind of ran it for my teammates so we could actually get that regional championship.
And I know it's always a goal to win the region as a team,
Definitely.
and a lot of pressure going into that race. So what was the emotion like on your team when you finally found out that you won the Northern Region Championship?
It was amazing. Definitely that race made a huge impact, and then obviously the 1,600. But it wasn't just my effort, it was my whole entire team's effort. And I hope that I was inspiring to them to, get out there, and especially in our 4x4, the last race of the day, for them to get out there and to know that we were right there about to win this regional championship. So.
Now, one thing that a lot of people might not know about Sophie is, of course, she's been making quite a name for herself on the running scene, but she is also a swimmer, and so you've been juggling doing indoor track with working with your swim team as well. So what's it been like to balance the two, and has one helped you with the other?
It's definitely been very hard, especially with schoolwork, homework, but swimming, it's really beneficial to running, definitely with lung power and aerobic activity. I think that's probably where I get a lot of my energy and kick at the end, is it from that swimming, because I had swam for such a long time. I've been a swimmer since I don't even remember when, but once I found out, running was definitely going to take me far, yeah.
Now, and you're going right into outdoor track, so you were very successful during the cross-country season, 3rd in the state. Now you've won a state championship in indoor track. What are your goals for outdoor track?
I definitely want to do well. I hope we do well as a team also. We have a lot of new people on the team for outdoor track that weren't on indoor. So it's just been great meeting some new teammates, and just we're going to all work together for not only our team goal, but hopefully another state championship for me. And I'm just going to try, work hard, keep swimming, keep running, and just get my stuff done and leave it all on the track.
Now, of course, Lake Braddock has quite a tradition with running. Can you talk a little bit about what it's like to compete for Lake Braddock and to have all that tradition behind you?
Definitely. Lake Braddock, it just has such a long record of being not only one of the top teams, top competitors, but also being a very team that shows a lot of sportsmanship and that has a lot of tradition. And it feels great to be able to represent such a successful team. And it's great because my teammates are very supportive of me, my coaches also, and just knowing that they're very, very, they know what they're talking about, and so.
Well, Sophie, thanks so much for joining us.
Sure.
We wish you the best of luck during the outdoor track season.
Thank you.
Sophie Chase, of course, having a big day at the Indoor Track Championships. Lots of region athletes coming up big for their teams during this event. Let's take a look at some of the field athletes first, having great showings at the championships. Dominic Graham finishing second in the high jump, Matt Hooglin from Lake Braddock finishing second in the pole vault, and then great to see Ryan Tarpey from Robinson, the senior, having a very good day in the 55 dash. Moving on, Jenna Marie Cant also finishing second in the 500. Very good event for her. She's been one that people have talked about from around the region all year long. Maya Hicks, fourth in the 1,000, finished right in front of Sarah Jane Underwood, who finished fifth.
Sarah Jane Underwood finished right ahead of Maya Hicks at the region level.
And then lots more athletes to talk about. Paige Cartunis from West Springfield, of course, she's just had a great season. The senior is really coming into her own. You see Sophie Chase there, who we just talked to, and Yazid Zuaimia coming up. But Paul, what really stands out to you there? The 3,200, 4 Northern Region athletes finishing first, second, third, fourth.
You could tell this was coming during the cross-country year when you see Chris Foley, Andrew McCullen, Yazid, they're all fighting it out. And Nat Neal, of course, who won the Northern Region title, all fighting it out in cross-country. Go, okay, this is going to be an interesting year for distance running.
All right, and then finishing up with the relays, lots of good relay teams in the region as well. So you see second, third, fourth there in the girls 4x800, so a great showing from the region in that event. But we did get to speak with Yazid a little earlier today. Obviously, he's had a great year in cross-country and then finished up with indoor track with a championship in the 3,200. Welcome back to the Players Lounge. Now I'm delighted to be joined by Yazid Zuaimia from Centerville High School, the boys 3,200 meter champion for the AAA state championships. Yazid, it was a great race for you. Now I know that you didn't feel like it went as perfectly as you would have wanted, so can you talk a little bit about the race, what was going through your mind, your strategy, and how you felt at the end?
Yeah, my strategy was to just go out and just stay on with the leaders, just sit with them, but then Chris, he made the move like to separate himself from the pack, and I kind of got boxed in between some of the other runners, but then like I was able to make my way up to him, and then after that I just made my move with 800 to go, and then I won.
Now you referenced Chris, and of course one great thing about competing in the Concord District in the Northern Region, there's so much great competition, and you've been competing against these guys for years, and it was 1, 2, 3, 4, all Northern Region runners. Mm-hmm. So can you talk a little bit about what it's like to have competed against such amazing competition in both your district and your region, and how that's helped you get to the point you're at now?
Well, it's really nice because I know not everyone in the country can say they have like a really good competition right there, like where they live and stuff. So it's nice when I'm going to like meets, like invitationals. I know like I have like people who are like just as good as me and who are gonna like really step it up and like make every race like a challenge. And you know, I'm sure we like push each other to run some fast times.
Now, one thing that a lot of people have been talking about is that at the Northern Region Championships, you ran the 1,000 meters, you won that. You didn't run that at the state championship, you ran the 3,200, and of course you won. Can you talk a little bit about the decision making in doing that event at the region championship and then doing the 3,200 at the state championship?
Yeah, I feel like I'm very comfortable like running a lot of different events. Like I think I can run all the events from 800 to 3,200. So at regionals at that particular time, I didn't have a really good 1,000 time, and I just wanted to try it and see like how fast I could go. But my main focus the whole season had been like on the mile and the 2 mile, and I thought I had the best chance of winning the state title in the 2 miles, so that's why I ran it.
And Yazid is not done because this weekend is the Nike Indoor Track Championships. And so what are you focusing on there?
I'm running the mile there.
And any changes you're going to make, any tweaks to it, or just stick with your regular strategy?
Well, I think it's going to, well, of course it's national. It's going to be a very fast race. I'm going to have a lot of competition. So my strategy is just to run run with them and stick to the pace. And I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be in the slow or fast heat, but just try to do my best.
And you are a senior, you will be graduating, but you do have outdoor track coming up. So is there anything you haven't done that you want to do, or what are you looking to get out of the outdoor track season and to contribute to your team?
Yeah, well, the whole indoor season after cross country finished, our team has been focusing to peak for the outdoor season. So I feel like we had some people on our 4x8 who are focusing on other sports during the indoor season, but we think we have a very formidable 4x8. So we're looking to do big things, running at the Penn relays in the 4x8, and so I'm going to be helping out on that. And then just looking to just compete well in the. I think I'm going to focus on the mile and the 2 mile and just compete well and run as fast as I can.
Well, and that reminds me, I've been a little remiss because I should have brought up your relay team's performance at the state championships as well, because you guys had a very good showing on Friday. And so can you talk a little bit about your team members and that event and what that was like?
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think like the other guys, they take pride in our 4x8. It's really like it's really nice to have like 4 guys who are all like have either really high skill levels. So we're just like really confident. We're like trying to just train hard and like, you know, push each other so we can have a good showing this season.
And then, of course, after high school, Yazid will go on and compete for Virginia Tech next season. And so still lots of exciting running in your future. But Yazid, thank you so much for joining us. We've enjoyed having you on the program.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, so indoor track finishing up with lots of athletes from the region having big days at the state championship. But now let's move back over to the state tournament for basketball. Talk a little bit, first of all, about the 1A matchup for the state quarterfinals last Saturday. George Mason squaring off against Northampton. Of course, George Mason is the defending state champion. So let's take a look at some of these highlights because George Mason has been on a roll all year, Paul.
Yeah, this was an embarrassment for Northampton from the get-go. George Mason just clearly a better team, clearly out hustling Northampton. You see, you don't see a defender in sight right there. It was, you know, Monica, it was a beatdown. It was just a big, bad beatdown for George Mason, dominating Northampton. You're going to see the final score in a few minutes. Just take note that in the second half, George Mason pulled up. They took their foot off the throttle. It was an ugly game from the get-go, and I was at this game. We were both at this game, and yeah, there really wasn't much of a game at all.
Chantel Thomas and Nicole Mitchell, the senior standouts for George Mason, having big games. Number 50 and number 22. That's Bria Plattenberg right there, the sophomore who has really contributed since she was a freshman. And then Lauren Kane, number 21. George Mason has so many offensive weapons, and Northampton really struggled to find an answer. Crystal Chavou right there, number 42, was really a large part of their offense. A couple of her teammates, Jessica Lee, ultimately getting into the action, but that was a big block by Nicole Mitchell. She just had a great game all in all. And then Asia Gibb, number 40, also getting into the scoring column for Northampton, but just a difficult day for the Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, it just seemed like they were playing at a different level than what George Mason was playing. You can see a few points here towards the end of the game. I think, Monica, they had 4 points at the half, 2 or 4 points at the half. Chavou had their first 4 points, and different players got involved, but it's just Nicole Mitchell, Chantel Thomas, such good players, both having 15 points. Every single one of George Mason's players got in this game, and you can see the score of 70-19.
And then, Paul, you got to talk with LeBrian Thomas and Nicole Mitchell at the end of the game.
Big win, big quarterfinal win. What did you tell your girls after the game?
We just have to stay focused. Our mission's not over. We have 2 more games to go, and hopefully we have 2 more games to go. It's probably going to be another contest for us next Thursday, and to keep playing.
Now this last couple of days before the state tournament started, did you feel the pressure because your team is the defending champion?
There's no pressure. These kids have been through the battle, and they know what it takes to get back. And as you can see of today's game, they're focused and they're ready.
And the defense, just talk about how strong your defense was today.
And that's what we focus on all year, is our defensive pressure, and it stands true.
Nicole, just your offense, 10 different players scored, 4 different players in double digits. Talk about the offensive balance you guys have.
Our offense balance is unbelievable. I mean, that's something Coach loves. We love to move the ball around. That's just something we love to do. And it's great to have more than one player who can score, too. So.
And the defense helping out the offense. A lot of easy rebounds in the first half. Can you talk about your defense?
Oh, Coach emphasizes rebounding, and getting up and down the floor. That's what we do.
Can you talk about your game tonight? 15 points. I had a great game from you.
Had a lot of open shots. I was just kind of feeling the little short jumper. So.
Coach, how do you get your team prepared now for the semifinals?
Hey, we just had to go back, have practice next week, and focus on as soon as we find out who we're going to play and set up a game plan for it.
All right, Coach. Nicole, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So LeBrian Thomas having a great season with his George Mason Mustangs. Now let's segue into the AAA state quarterfinals. First of all, Oakton, this Oakton Cougar team we've talked about so much, squaring off against Stonewall Jackson, and Oakton continuing their dominance as we take a look at some of these highlights. Caroline Coyer, her twin sister Catherine, once again, we talked about them in the region final. Coming up big as well in the quarterfinal.
Yeah, Catherine Coyer really was impressive to me. She had 16 points, and Caroline Coyer doubled that with 32 points for a game-high 32 points. But Catherine Coyer, I think she stepped up a lot more here in this postseason, at least her scoring output. And then you see Danielle Davis. I did a story for the Fairfax Times on Danielle Davis, and I mentioned it earlier in the show. This is her first, she's a junior, but this is her first year on this Cougar team. You see Kiani White, just a fantastic player there for Stonewall Jackson. But Danielle Davis had 3 big 3-pointers in the first half to really get, you can see one right there, to really get these Cougars going.
All right, and the final score for this one says it all. Oakton with the big commanding lead over Stonewall Jackson. You see 3 players getting in double digits for the Cougars. For Stonewall Jackson, Ryan Jordan, the sophomore, with a big 21-point game. Caracciolo and White, 2 of their top players, having 11 points apiece.
Yeah, it was Kiani White with 11 points. That's low for Kiani White, who's one of the, there you see Caroline Coyer in the photo. Kiani White is a fantastic guard. I had a chance to cover Stonewall Jackson last year. They are a great team. Kiani White being held to 11 points, that's a great defensive job by the Cougars.
And Paul got to speak with our player of the game, Caroline Coyer, and Fred Priester after Oakton's big win.
I'm here with Caroline Coyer and head coach Fred Priester. Caroline, congratulations. Another big game, over 30 points. Can you talk about your game today?
I don't know. I guess I was just on. The entire team played so well. Like, everybody was on. Everybody was hitting shots. Everyone was hitting free throws. We had a good game plan. We played great defense, and it just worked out really well.
Stonewall Jackson, a very potent offense with Kiani White and Joy Caracciolo, but you held those girls in check. Can you talk about your defense?
We knew what we needed to do on defense, and we knew we needed to stop their 2 big guns. And we prepared a lot, over the last week for them. And Catherine's a great defender, and she was able to stop Kiani really well, and Joy, we were able to keep her in check too, and it was just really good defensively, a good team effort.
You had the opportunity to play in the state tournament as a freshman last year. How much did that help with your nerves leading up to today's game?
Well, I'll tell you, last year I was really nervous, and I'm still real nervous before every game, but I was able to, I knew it was coming, I knew what I was playing in, I'd been here before, and it was just a lot easier. Danielle
Davis, this is her first year with the team. She had 3 big threes in the first half. Can you talk about what she was able to do?
She has come so far this season. She's so important to our team. Rebounds are her big shots. If people think that they have to guard, me, Zora, Catherine, she always steps up and hits the big shots.
Caroline, thanks. Coach, I'm asking the same question about Danielle Davis, a junior coming in, transferring in this year. She had those big threes early in this game.
Well, Danielle has just gotten better and better. I mean, she was a good player when she came to us, but it takes a while, I don't care how good you are, to fit into a new system. And she had 3 big threes in the first half of the district final against Westfield. Came through with 3 big threes tonight. But she's been doing all the grunt work. She's been doing all the boarding and playing great defense and all that stuff like that. And then she just takes her shots when she's got them. And what I think is she hardly ever has any turnovers. She makes such great decisions when we're moving the ball around the perimeter that loosens everybody else up.
And then that defense, just great job by your defense tonight, the turnovers.
Right. Well, the thing is, I think, as Caroline said, we try to come up with a good plan each week, and the kids go out and execute it. Plans are just plans until the kids go out and execute it. Once they do, then it becomes something where everybody says, what a great defensive job. Well, the kids do the job.
Yourself, you're also an old hat at the state tournament as well. Do you have nerves at all coming into this game?
I always have nerves. Maybe I'm getting older now, and I don't have quite as many, but, I went home after between our shoot around and whatever, and I was feeling a little bit more nervous than I was yesterday. But that's okay. I think the kids came out. We started off strong, and that made it easy for me.
All right, head coach Fred Priester and our player of the game, Caroline Coyer.
And Oakton was not the only Northern Region girls team playing over at Robinson Secondary School last Saturday. West Springfield squared off against Osborne Park. West Springfield lost in the region tournament, had a great showing against Osborne Park. So let's take a look at some of these highlights here. And Destiny Sharon getting off to a quick start for Osborne Park.
Yeah, Osborne Park, the team that won the Northwest region, another team I'm very familiar with. Kelly Hamner is a fantastic player, and she was tasked with guarding April Robinson for West Springfield. We talked about April Robinson earlier in the show, the dynamic player for the Spartans. You see there Destiny White for Osborne Park. April Robinson was held to just 2 points in the first half. That would change. You see Hamner hits the jumper. That would change in the second half, but just 2 points, Monica, in the first half. Which
was a big story for the Spartans, but they did have some players step up. Logan Battle having a very big game for them, while Robinson was a little quiet. And here you see Osborne Park, Rachel Gordon. She had a big day for Osborne Park.
We talk about balance. We've talked about balanced teams all year. Both these teams, West Springfield and Osborne Park, very balanced teams. You see Mel Todd moving in. And Mel Todd was the person that went to April Robinson during halftime to give her a pep talk saying, your shots are going to fall. Don't worry, your shots will fall. And in the second half, they certainly did.
Well, that's the senior leadership that you would expect out of a player like Mel Todd, and April Robinson's shots did begin to fall. Logan Battle there getting the nice put back, and then great pass from Mel Todd to Muffin Brassfield. Muffin Brassfield also had a really nice game.
And she is a fantastic defensive player. She had those, I believe it was nine points, but her real contribution for this team is defense. She is a great defensive player, and here comes April Robinson. Big three there for the sophomore.
That's exactly right. Robinson really came alive during the second half. She was the big story, the reason why West Springfield ended up really just being able to close out in the fourth quarter and get the win. So let's take a look at the score. So you'll see West Springfield, your champion, or winning that quarterfinal. April Robinson, 18 points. Logan Battle, 14 points, and Muffin Brassfield, 9 points. And you see a great picture there of April Robinson, just really a hard-fought battle between two great teams. And Paul, you got to talk with Robinson at the end of the game, and of course West Springfield head coach Gibson.
I'm here with Bill Gibson and April Robinson. Coach, first half you're down by 1, but the third quarter you guys came back huge. Can you talk about that third quarter?
I just think defensive pressure picked up, forced some turnovers, made a few easy buckets, just got us rolling, I think. That was sort of the difference. Defense turned the tide for us to get some buckets, and kids felt more confident, and that got us going.
Very, very balanced on offense. Obviously, April leading things, but very balanced on offense.
Well, we feel we have 5 kids, 6 kids in score for us, so and that's a key to us, that you got to guard everybody, which creates things for, it opens up April a lot, and that's part of what we try to do. So.
April, headed to the state semifinals. What are your feelings right now?
It's amazing. We haven't been here, because I'm a sophomore. We haven't been here, but we want to do it for all the seniors. We want to go further, and now we get to play at VCU.
Talk about that third quarter. You guys came out. You outscored them 17-10 in that third quarter.
I guess it just gave us a halftime speech, and we just had to come out, play our real game. That's how we really play. We just picked it up on defense, offense, and we got ourselves the win.
All right, April, Coach, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, and then in the nightcap of the state quarterfinal, Chantilly squaring off against Garfield. People were very excited about the post matchup in this game. Of course, John Manning has been having a great season for the Chargers, as we said. So let's take a look at the highlights from that matchup. Chantilly has a lot of balanced scoring, and then of course Garfield having to come from out of town a ways, squaring off against this Chantilly team.
You just saw Jeremiah Johnson there, 6'3". I had a chance to cover him last year, and he is a fantastic player for Garfield. So coming into this game, I thought John Manning would have his hands full. Obviously, Manning, 6'11", junior center for Chantilly. But really, it wasn't even a contest in the paint. John Manning having just a fantastic game, 10 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 blocks. The game was close, though, in the first half.
It absolutely was. Garfield kept it close. They got great play out of Randall Smith, Corey Bonds, and Chantilly having to come alive there. In the second half, Keithon Savage, a big reason that they came alive. He had a monster dunk in the third quarter that really, I thought, got the Chargers going.
Yeah, you saw Devin Ballam hitting a layup there. He had 12 points. Keithon Savage had 12 as well. Adam Friday had 10 points. We talk about balance. Again, Chantilly, a very balanced team. You see one of the blocks by John Manning. And Manning was he was a presence in the paint. And I said it before, in these playoffs, he's really coming to his own.
And I think that's a great sign for Chantilly fans. And there's that monster dunk by Keithon Savage, which, as I said, I really thought helped get the Chargers rolling during the second half. So Chantilly coming up with the win as we take a look at the final score, 50-40 over Garfield. We've talked about that balance. John Manning with 5 blocks. Randall Smith and Corey Bonds having big games for Garfield. And after the game, I did get the opportunity to speak with Jim Smith and Keithon Savage about their big win.
I'm standing here with Keithon Savage and head coach Jim Smith. Keithon, you're going on to the semifinals. How does it feel?
Feels great. I mean, I played at VCU and AAU and things. I love that court. I've never been to a state tournament before like this, so I'm just excited. I'm excited.
Now, during the second half, I felt like every time your team needed a big play, first you had the dunk in the third quarter, then you had the three-point play in the fourth quarter. Can you talk a little bit about those two plays?
No, I was just feeling a little bit. In the first half, I didn't really do much. My teammates were taking over most of the game, and so I saw that in the second half, they was kind of close, and I thought we just need some buckets, so I put it upon myself to get it done.
Now, obviously, in the third quarter, you guys cooled off a little bit, but then you really came on strong during the end. Can you talk about keeping your composure?
We just had, like you said, we had to keep our composure and things. You know, in most games recently that they've been fouling at the end, we've been up a little bit, so we had to knock down free throws and just not turn the ball over and keep control.
Coach, I know one matchup everyone was really excited about was watching John against Jeremiah Johnson. Can you talk about that battle in the low post tonight?
Well, I think John makes it tough for everybody. So Jeremiah came out and he knocked down some jump shots, and he's a very fine player, but not many players are going to get much done inside against John, and they didn't. John always holds the inside down for us, and he did as well tonight.
Now, I feel like with your club, it's always a team effort, but I'm going to ask you about another one of your players, Devin Ballam, at the end. I know he'd like to have a couple of those free throws back, but hitting those first 2 big free throws and then the bucket there to seal the deal. Can you talk about his effort late in the game?
Yeah, you know, we called the timeout there because we wanted to get the ball to Devin to shoot those free throws because we knew he would knock them down. And, you know, you call timeout, you get a ball to somebody, and he hits the 2 free throws. It makes me look smart. So we knew he would make those. And then, obviously, he's very athletic, great finish in transition. That was a big-time play.
Now, the other Northern Region team competing on Saturday, Langley, lost to Patrick Henry. You see there Joey Kiffey with 10 points, Colin Jones with 9 points. But a number of the teams moving on to the semifinals, getting to compete there. Oakton losing today, Paul, to Princess Anne. And then West Springfield, Lake Taylor, we don't have the score of that one.
They're currently playing right now.
But finally, Chantilly squaring off against Norcom and losing in that one 61-52.
Yeah, had a 7-point lead in the fourth quarter, but losing to Norcom.
All right, so these are when the state finals will take place. We will be with our spring preview episode on March 24th. Thanks so much for joining us here at the Northern Virginia Sports Report. We want to thank the sponsors, CCI Screen Printing and Craig Sturbutzel. You can get copies of this program at Pressbox Video, and you can check out our website as well as become a fan of our program and send us any news, story ideas, or suggestions you have. Well, for Paul Frummel, I'm Monica Moore. Thanks so much for joining us.